I'm Mike Hanwald, field agronomist with Beck's Hybrids, and I'm here in front of a soybean field in northern Ohio here, and the beans are continuing to progress through their growth stages, and we're well past June 21st, the summer solstice, so these beans have been flowering and have entered the reproductive stages for quite a while, and we're getting into that time period where it's time to start thinking about potentially applying a fungicide to our soybean fields. And so wanted to just spend a little bit of time talking about that. Fungicide on soybeans has been one of the most consistent PFR studies that we've had as far as a positive return on investment. Something I wanted to just share a few thoughts with you on the timing of fungicide in soybeans, and then some other things to think about as well. So first of all, when it comes to timing, so if you look at the chart on your screen, you'll see that over the years that we've tested this, multiple years and multiple PFR sites, very consistently that R3 is the growth stage that you want to be spraying a fungicide on soybeans. If you're too early at R2 or too late at R4, a lot less of a chance of being profitable, but hitting that R3 is very important. And so it's important to understand what the R3 growth stage is. And so I've got a soybean plant here that's flowered from top to bottom. And so that would be the R2 growth stage, which is full flower. And R2 lasts for quite some time, but R3 is a lot faster, about 7 to 10 days. So it's important to be able to identify it correctly. And so what you do is you start at the top of this soybean plant and you count down the top 4 nodes. And so we start up here with these nodes that are just developing and count 1, 2, 3, 4. So we look at those top 4 nodes and we look to see if we have a 3/16 of an inch long pod in those top 4 nodes. Now you'll have more pods that are longer down in the lower part of the plant, because soybeans, the reproductive phases work their way from the bottom up to the top. But in these top 4, we're looking for a 3/16 of an inch long pod. And so once you see that, you're at the start of R3, and that will last for, like I said earlier, about 7 to 10 days until you get a 3/4 of an inch long pod in those top 4 nodes. And so that is the R3 growth stage that you're aiming for. Why is R3 so important? Why do we think it works? How a soybean plant develops is that the trifoliate that is attached to the node is what actually supplies all the energy to feed that node and put on the flowers and then eventually pods and then seed at that node. And according to the University of Illinois, 70% of your soybean yield comes from nodes 6 through 13. And most of the time when you get to the R3 growth stage, you're normally at about the V12 to V14 stage, where nodes 12 to 14 are the topmost nodes at that point. And so almost all of those nodes 6 through 13 are visible at that point, are going to be receptive to the fungicide, and so you're protecting the nodes that provide the bulk of your yield, which is why it's pretty important. So once you've identified the R3 growth stage, then it's time to decide what fungicide product are you going to use. And there are several products that are PFR proven. You can see those on your screen right now. So PFR proven are products that we test over at least 3 years at multiple locations, and they average a positive return on investment. But you don't have to use only a fungicide from this list to be successful. One of the key common factors across all these fungicides is they contain multiple mode of actions. So usually at least a strobilurin mode of action, and so that gives you some protection and kind of a preventative against future disease infections, and also helps with plant health. And then it also contains a triazole, which helps to kill any fungus or any disease that's currently present there. And sometimes you have an SDHI mix in there as well, but the multiple mode of action is what's most important to give you the best coverage of these plants. And so any fungicide that you pick that's got those multiple mode of actions should be effective in this case. Now, when you go out and actually make the application, there's a few things to think about. So applying in the morning can help you to increase your yield and ultimately your ROI. It's not a big yield bump, usually only about a half bushel or so, but it does help a little bit because the plant is more receptive. It's more likely to take that fungicide into the leaves, and then, in essence, provide more benefit as well. And so if it looks like you're going to have a few good days to spray, especially if you're doing it yourself and you've got the opportunity to control when you get out in the field, hitting it in the morning when it's cooler or when there's dew out in the field can really help. Carrier rate is also important. Using higher rates of water helps to get more coverage on the plant. So 15 to 20 gallons is going to be our recommended rate as well, based on the PFR data that we have tested. Now, it's common to also add an insecticide when you go out to spray a fungicide. And we actually have 2 PFR proven insecticides that you apply at the R3 growth stage. One note on the insecticide though is it's important to scout and see if you have any insect pests that are actually present at the time that you're making the application, because an insecticide kills all insects in the field, and there are a lot of beneficial insects out there as well. So when you're taking the time to scout to see if you're at the R3 growth stage, also look to see if you have any insect damage that might warrant adding that insecticide to your tank mix. And then lastly, if you're going to be going across the field, another common question is, should I add a foliar feed to my spray tank as well to help feed these beans and help them through those final growth stages? And we have several PFR proven foliar feed products as well. You can see that in these later applications, the products that contain multiple nutrients. Some of the common ones are sulfur, zinc, manganese, boron, and then sometimes others in there as well. But those are the products that tend to give us that positive return on investment. Again, you're not limited to just what's on this list, but these can give you a pretty good starting point. So if you have any questions about making a fungicide application to your soybeans, several farmers, it's something they do every year. Others may have never done it before and might be interested in trying. But if you have any questions about that decision, feel free to reach out to myself or your local Beck's representative, and we would be happy to help you. Thanks a lot, and best of luck.